All right, we are officially on set with the Existential Bro. This is Juju on the mic today. I'm very excited to be here on a Sunday early morning. We got our coffee in us. We have a couple guests for today's episode. But before I get into the guests, I just want to say thank you so much to Liquid Death. Liquid Death, thank you for keeping us hydrated during this episode. You could sponsor us on the existentialbro.com, existentialbro on Instagram. And that's really all I have for today. We also have Celsius here, so if you need to be caffeinated or you're having a tough time at work, this is your go-to. Or if you just want to hang out at Equinox with your buddy Amitai and talk to nobody and sit there and not work out, you could also drink Celsius. It's great. So, who are we with today? So you might see a familiar face here. We have Amitai Porat. He is a good friend of mine from college, some background. We've known each other now. It used to be approximately 9 years. We're going on 10 now. Last time I saw him was in 2022 in February for this podcast, episode 15, Creative Imbalance. He's back for another episode. He's going to talk about the creative imbalance, but he's going to go into a little bit more depth. Ami, say hello to the fans.
It's crazy that we've known each other for 10 years.
We're at the 10-year mark, man.
The first time we ever met was on a bus, and you're making fun of my Facebook profile.
Oh, wow.
In front of
I was just trying to be his publicist.
15 people, and it was the funniest 2 hours.
I knew you had potential from the beginning. I was like, all right, this guy just has no direction. It just doesn't. He has no direction. He has no idea what he even thinks he looks like. I'm going to have to help him and mold him into the right person. So slowly but surely, I destroyed his relationships and made sure that everything that you see on Instagram was
curated.
All my doing. And yeah, I mean, I had to tag him in everything. His best photos are the tagged photos of me and him. So I'm really happy that he's here. I'm happy that we can talk again on acting and just kind of going into diving into character. But really who I'm excited about is my favorite person, JJ. Who I'm really excited about is JJ Nolan. I met her during her premiere, Mother Trucker, with Jessa. She was on episode 18, Faking Intimacy. And I had just watched the film, and I was astonished with what I had seen. It was probably some of the best acting. And, when you go to a short film, it was my first short film, indie-style movie. You guys shot it during COVID with, not a huge budget, from my understanding, especially for an action film, not a huge budget. And, wow, it really came – obviously, the special effects were amazing, and, I know Jessa did an amazing job at directing, but God, the acting, JJ blew me away. And
thank you.
And I had thought, I saw her before the premiere, and I had no idea who she was. I was like, who's that good-looking woman right over there? I have no idea, but wow, that's a nice suit. And I saw the film, and I was like, wow. I really got to know, does she feel connected to that character? So I ran up to her and I'm like, JJ, what's up? You don't know me. Some things we have in common. You were on a Pizza Hut commercial. I was on a Pizza Hut commercial. We should definitely be friends. And she had thought I was obnoxious and a weirdo. And I knew right away we were going to be friends. And I had asked her, I said, look, JJ, what's your favorite character? How do you peel away yourself or peel away a little bit more of a layer of depth into yourself to play each of these characters? How do you find that within your soul? And she had to really think about that for a second. Mm-hmm. She really was like, okay, I think I'm gonna have to really.
You stumped me on what's your favorite layer of your onion.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Oh shit. Do I even have a favorite layer, or are they all the best?
And I was really blown away. And what I'm excited about this episode is we're going to talk about acting. We're going to talk about what it feels like to dive into character, what it feels like to be on set, what it feels like to be on a podcast set. But what I really want to understand, and I want listeners to kind of be able to feel, is this feeling of fear, right? Because fear dictates a lot of what we do. And I think for myself especially, and I can only speak for myself, but I am very fearful of not really just failure, but not living up to the potential that I see myself in the long run. And I think that plays out in my career. It plays out into my relationships. It plays out into my friendships with my family. And I've noticed it that I feel like kind of like an imposter, where if I'm in a position of whether it's in court or in a relationship, I feel like I shouldn't even be there. I feel like I don't have the, I guess, the purpose or the skill set that needs to be there to be successful in that specific role. So what I was asking you before the show, I was like, look, when you're diving into these different characters, or when you get a call for a new role, and you're kind of moving up the scale, right? You're starting with these smaller roles, or maybe you're even starting from, as an extra, and then you're working your way up through that industry. How does it feel when you get one of those roles and you might not feel like, is this really me? Am I going to be able to live up to that potential that I might have a fear of not being able to do? And I want to know how you kind of combat that feeling of fear, and how you could go into that role and just turn a blind eye and just be like, okay, this is who I am today. This is what I need to dive into. This is the character that I need to be able to be successful in my career. How do you turn that switch on and off?
Well, okay. So I think what I was saying before is, I feel like I don't suffer from self-awareness when I am playing a character. Mm-hmm. It's when I'm being JJ, that's when I suffer from extreme self-awareness and self-consciousness and fear of being exposed as being an imposter. But when it comes down to actually performing, I am not thinking as JJ. I'm thinking as a character who is different from me. So it helps me to. I don't feel like myself necessarily in those moments. So, and then the second I start to feel self-aware, I know that I'm being taken out of my the space, and I'm no longer performing, and I'm in my head. So it's actually I prefer having a character to put on, and it's what I love about like doing improv too, because if you mess up, it's not your fault. It's just the characters being dumb.
There's no failure there.
Yeah.
Failure is success, is what you're saying.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess so. In acting, yeah. But yeah, I feel like I put on a cloak when I have a character. I'm in disguise, and I don't feel the same self-awareness that I do when I'm being myself, or like doing a speech. Like I did a speech at my best friend's wedding last year, and I think I blacked out.
What character was that? What onion? What layer did you have to go into for that?
That was the extreme awkward layer that some people find charming, but it's mortifying when I see playback of that moment. It's I feel like an exposed nerve in those moments, where that's just JJ. That's just JJ's childhood, fears. That's just JJ feeling like a shy little dorky kid on the playground, and like her friends didn't talk to her today, and that fucking sucks. Sorry, it just sucks. Can I say the F word?
You're allowed to say the F word.
Did I ruin it?
You can say whatever you want on the
Start from the beginning.
Okay.
Start from the beginning.
All right, that's cut. Let's go ahead and get started. We were here with the Existential Bro. We were
Thank you so much for having me.
So what I'm hearing is, when you feel like you're finally in the moment, and you're playing that character, there's not that. You don't have the time to think about what you're not adequate for.
Yeah. You're not thinking in terms of like what JJ's like failures could possibly be. It's like you're committing to, and honestly, the harder you commit, the better it is. So. That was like one of the first times I realized that I loved acting was in a theater class when I was in high school, and I was like, I did the monologue from Mommy Dearest, if you guys know it, the hanger monologue, and
we're both like, no, we don't.
Like, go ahead and play it for us.
Well, it's a little crazy. Let's just say it has to do with hangers, and wire hangers. It's the no more wire hanger monologue. And she's just like freaking out. And I was like, and I was kind of a shy kid. So like, and I was always just, self-conscious and like, just kind of terrified of what people thought of me. And I did this monologue, and I just like went for it. And I was like on my knees screaming and crying. And people in my class were like, what the fuck? And I was like, and then I stood up and I was like, thank you. I was like, that was awesome. Like, what a trip. Like, you could just, so I was like, not even I wasn't even like, I just like went on this little joyride, and I was like, wow, that was so cool. I want to do that all the time. Yeah, that was when I started to realize that like it's actually, it feels a lot safer for me to be hiding in a character. And I don't want to say hiding, but like, you know, that's part of what you get to step into another person's shoes and not be yourself for a minute. And that's like the most, that's the play, that's the fun. Yeah.
I think sometimes for me, what I've had a lot of trouble with is knowing when I am good enough. And what I mean by that is there'd be times, I was telling you, is there'd be times where they're like, hey, can you go to court for this hearing, or can you go to this appearance? And I'll run over and I'll run to the court. And it's not even a big thing. It's like a very small role, like an extra almost in a film. And I'm just picking up some documents saying, hey, how's it going? I'm Julian Shai for the defense, blah, 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 right? And I feel so important, but I also feel like, okay, I'm in a suit. I'm supposed to be the lawyer. I'm supposed to go out there and vindicate their rights and be the advocate that I've always wanted to be. And I don't have time to kind of think because I'm running off adrenaline. And I get there and there's no fear because I haven't felt like I am really myself in that role. I feel like I've kind of dived into character. I've dived into the lawyer I'm supposed to be in that very moment. But the times where I feel so fearful or that I'm not good enough is when I'm in the office or, you know, I have someone give me a deadline or an assignment and I just don't feel like I should be trusted with this. I'm like, I'm just getting started in my legal profession. And in my career, like, I'm just a human being. Like, I'm on the existential bro. Like, I don't know what exactly it is you're expecting of me, but I don't know if I can do it. And that I don't know how to combat that fear.
I feel so a little bit to your what you were touching on earlier too, is I can relate to this moment too. Now I like when I do get an audition that I'm like, you know, this is me, and if I don't see it immediately, like what I'm supposed to do with the character, I'm like, why are they doing this to me? Like why are they trusting me with this material? I do feel like there's like a fear of like letting people down, especially like if you want to do well, like you're always gonna be afraid of letting people down, and I never want to let anybody down, and that's when it starts kicking in and I'm like, oh shit, why did anyone let me do this?
It's like I want to make sure
I don't deserve to be here.
I want to make sure that the person that I'm vindicating or that I'm advocating for is gonna be someone that I don't let down. I mean, Amitai, you and I have talked about this so many different times. Like you have had such a success in my eyes, right? You might not believe it, but you have had such a success in the transition with coming to LA, coming from the tech background that you've had, you know, going to school for computer science and then just jumping in to Hollywood. Like that to me is so fucking scary. And I said the F word. So just so you know, I use the F word once in a while. I am a lawyer, but I'm allowed to cuss once in a while. And I do think it's so scary that you just dove right in. And you didn't, I mean, I guess you could tell us, like, what did you think people were going to think of you? Like, did you think you were even good enough to be here?
Oh, no. I mean, I still don't. I think, I mean, it's scary every single day for sure. I don't think you overcome that. I think you get, at least for me, accustomed to being with the fear. Just accepting that you're going to be afraid. And probably that's a good thing because you're running up against a personal boundary. It's interesting you say you find freedom in characters because when it clicks in, you truly are free. And I think that's something very appealing about things like acting, or even maybe when you're being a lawyer, if you're playing music or if you're a professional athlete, when you're doing that thing, you're in that singular threaded mental flow.
Yeah, like flow. Yeah, flow
state.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's not something you really have to think about as much versus like when you're on set waiting for the set to start, or I mean.
One question I would have for you though is, you know, when you click in, let's say you get a character, you're like, I don't know what to do with this. Do you have some kind of process that you say, okay, I'm going to step back and this is how I'm going to angle in so I can start finding those thoughts that I need to have in order to be that person?
Yeah, well, we have to be detectives as actors. We have to like just dig through the text until it starts to form a point of view. So like you're always looking for clues in the text that you get to formulate some sort of point of view, and you know, that's our sole purpose, is to bring a point of view into a character. So if I don't feel like I have a point of view, I don't see a way. But eventually it started, like, I just have to keep digging. If it doesn't make sense to me at first, I have to keep digging and digging through the text to formulate a point of view. And if that's not working, then I bang my head against a wall or like walk in circles and then start to like feel it in my body. I mean, that's like like one of the things I like to do is actually just like try to feel it in my body. Like, where does this character live? Like, how do they move their body? How do they move through the world? Like, how do they see the world? Yeah, it's not always easy at first, but then, you know, when you find it and you're like, oh, there they are.
When you when you find it, so you let's say you look through a script and you're starting to think, okay, how do I feel this character? How do I be this character? What is it about this character that I embody? So I could kind of lean into that, right? We all have different types of personalities. And I think, you know, some people think they're very secular, like they're very focused or narrowed in onto one thing. And they're like, no, this is just who I am. But if we're really being real with each other, I think we all have different parts of our bodies
Nobody
that
is just one
embody
thing.
they embody completely different. I mean, my two clash totally all the time, like the poet, the soulful romantic that just wants to like bask in life and be lustful and, you know, sit there and cry and watch these sad movies, and it's just a
Go
whole
on about that.
it's a whole different world from the lawyer who's professional that wears a nice Armani suit and makes sure he's smiling and always ready to go and working his ass up. So what I'm saying is you finally find that part of your body. You're like, oh, it's right here. Okay, I could feel the character and I see the character and I can embody that character. When you leave that role, though, that part of your body is still there. It doesn't just leave you. It didn't like you didn't create that. That was always there.
Yeah, it was always there.
So how do you go back to JJ, the person that you probably, you know, and like I said, we're different parts and different peels of the onion, but how do you kind of take that character and say, okay, cool, I leaned into it, I did the role, let me go back to who I am as a whole? Because my problem, and I could only speak on what I feel when I'm going through the professional world, is I lean into that profession. When I'm at the office and I'm trying to be who I think I'm supposed to be, I'm leaning deep into that. Especially when I'm on a client call or I'm emailing opposing counsel back, like, are you serious? Like, you think you got me? I'm leaning so hard. And then I'll leave the office and I'm like, God, I gotta watch a sad movie.
So does it take you a minute to reset?
I don't.
You have to like decompress.
It takes a second to figure out who I just became, because I almost lose a little bit of myself in that realm. So I'm curious to know how you take yourself in that realm and just go, okay, you're JJ again. Like, take a deep breath. We're gonna act like JJ.
Yeah, I mean, it might be a practice, but I think that also like you use these, well, not you, but like I use, everyone has their own process, but like I try to formulate a history within each character. It's not my history. If I go back to my history, that can be really hard to bounce back from. So if I'm like, crying all day on set, it's not easy for me to keep going to a dark place in my own life, in my own experience, to continue to cry all day and like to just live in that dark place all day.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine that.
Yeah. So and you need to be able to, I mean, not everybody does this, but I think that it is very beneficial for everybody on set if you're able to actually talk to people like a normal person in between takes and like, take a break from the seriousness.
Have you ever had anyone that you've met that is in character the entire set?
Yeah. And I know that people do it, and it's not, everybody has their process. I think it's unfortunate when it's like a really, really bad person that they're playing and they can't step away from it, like serial killer, like kind of bad, and they're just like staying in character, and you're like, bro, take it easy. We're playing here. Please, stressing everyone out. Yeah, you gotta be able to go to I like to be able to go to a different place that isn't my own, so that it is easier for me to bounce back from. And like, I mean, I did a lot more drama this past year, but I tend to do a lot of comedy, so it's not often that I'm like running
you are
into.
funny, I will say.
Thank you.
You kept me laughing the whole time.
Thank you. But yeah, but there were a couple of things that I worked on this year where I had to cry. I just had to keep crying. I was and the tears couldn't stop. I was just crying.
That's all organic.
Going crazy.
Like you're organically crying.
Yeah.
Well, how do you do that?
Well,
you got some dark trauma down deep in one of those parts.
well,
of your
yeah,
onions?
but also it's so like your shirt says, it all comes from empathy. So
Exactly.
my empathy for the character that I'm playing
Sure.
is what I'm using, because if I've created this story for my character who has also these characters I was playing were having a real tough time in life, and they so it wasn't hard for me to imagine how difficult even thinking about it now, I get choked up thinking about how hard their lives are. So it's it's not hard to it's all coming from empathy for the character. It's not my own shit. If I need to if I'm oh shit, we're going and I need to cry, then I'll just think about something really sad. But I try not to do that, because it's easier to bounce back and be present as JJ if I'm just dipping into a different character.
Are you?
not-
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No.
I was going to ask: are you thinking about an emotional state you need to arrive at, or are you trusting that it will go where it needs to go?
If I don't trust it, then it's terrifying.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, you a year ago were telling me that it just kind of happens, right? That feeling of things just starting to come together. I mean, you just booked your first role. It's a role. It's a role.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And it came together after a year of working hard and going to class and doing the work. Did you trust that emotion, that emotion was just going to lead to where it needs to go? Because you were telling me that feeling of fear and that feeling of regret, that's never necessarily going to just end one day. You just have to keep moving and just trust the process. How have you seen that process the past year since I last spoke to you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I guess you don't think about it when you're in it. When you're in it, it doesn't feel like any kind of you don't have a version of, oh, this is me now versus this is me then. I mean, maybe if you look back, then it materializes.
Your hair's
more.
gotten a lot longer.
My hair's gotten longer.
I've noticed the versions.
You're well, you haven't visited your barber. That I can tell you in terms of your experience.
Me too.
No, I think you just. I don't know. You just keep going. It's an iterative process, and I would say there's ups and downs. There's days where you're okay, things are clicking, and I feel connected. I'm able to access.
Oh yeah, I worked on something at the beginning of the year, and I it was a quarantine isolation on top of the holidays, and by the time the shoot rolled around, I was I hate myself. I have been alone for way too long. And also, by the way, thank God I quarantined, because one of the other guys tested positive. So it sucked. We lost one of our actors, but so by the time the shoot day rolled, and I went to bed crying the night before I got to go do the thing that I love doing so much. I was I don't know why I'm here. I'm completely purposeless, wandering around in this life. Who let me do this? How is this gonna work? And then all day on set, in between takes, I'd be I think I should probably just quit. I should probably quit, shouldn't I? I'm not doing it right.
Isn't that amazing that the dream is to be there, and then when you're there, you're just
sabotage. Every negative thought I could think of, I was ooh, I like that one. I'll take that one too. I like that. Yummy. Eat them all up. Collect them all. And every time I got a direction from the director, I was okay, no, he knows now that I can't do this. What is wrong with me?
So when it's the final time, I feel my fear happens more the night before, where once I'm on, I just don't the adrenaline is just pumping so much that I just don't have time to process where I am, what's happening, why I'm even dressed up like somebody that's important, why I have this big briefcase of files in my hand. I'm you just don't have time to process it. But what it sounds like is the fear that you have the night before, and then you go into it just kind of you told me before we even got on the mic, is that you could completely leave feeling I completely blew that. And that was the worst performance.
Yeah.
And people are so receptive with so much positivity that's like confusing because it's just, you know what your potential is, I'm sure, but yet people look at you and they're like, wow, JJ was just astonishing.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
I'm like, were we watching the same thing or?
Like, how do you deal with that?
It's interesting because sometimes I will watch something and be like, I'll be like crying. I'm like, I'm amazing. How did I do that? And then I'll watch the same thing on a different day and I'm like, wow, that was trash. That was complete trash. It's just always changing and it like depends on the mood and the setting and wait, sorry, I forgot your question. What did you say?
Don't worry, we're not even here to talk about questions. But I guess what I was asking you is like, how do you deal with the fact that you might know what your potential is that day, and you might leave not feeling that you did your very best, or because I mean we were talking about imposter syndrome. So at the end of the day, it's imposter syndrome is just not feeling adequate to be in the position you're in that moment.
Yeah.
And maybe you felt that, and you left feeling that, and you maybe continued your day feeling that, but then it airs, or you see it on,
wow, that was
and they're like, it was amazing, and you're like, I just have to live for the past 3 months or 6 months feeling like I wasn't adequate enough.
Yeah,
like, does that feel like having that positive affirmation? Does that feel like you are better now? Like, do you feel like you did live up to your potential?
It helps because part of the imposter syndrome is like I think you always need like exterior reinforcement because you can't find it in yourself consistently enough to like know that like. But I also feel that like confidence and insecurities are intertwined and they just kind of like there's not like you're never just one but I do feel like people who suffer from imposter syndrome are also people who maybe rely more on external validation. Right? Don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you just fucked me up because I think you're like, anyways, so the reason why you're
so
dealing with the reason why you have issues is because you need other people's approval. So figure that out first, and then. But you're right.
But like, if you, I mean, I think it's very huge, and it's always like the people who shouldn't need people's approval, who suffer from these insecurities, like. Well, it's not always like some people, like but you know what I mean. But no, I think that it's a lot of like high performing people who feel like they're an imposter because they because it doesn't matter how many times you hear that you're good enough or you're doing a great job. It's like you still can't change the tape that's going on in your head of like that story that you've been telling yourself your whole life since childhood that you've developed that based on caretakers.
I was at that premiere last night that I was telling you about. T.I. was there with his new movie coming out, Fear, with Joseph Sikora, and I remember the conversation in the beginning of the film was, I mean, before they even aired it, was what you feel in your mind is what you manifest into the world. What you manifest into the world is what you say on your tongue, and what your tongue says is what people hear. And it was, I really thought about that because I was like, my fears are all here. It's never actually the way I perform. It's never actually the way people come to me and say, you failed at this, or you're not good enough to do this. Don't do this again. It's never other people's, I guess, thought about me. It's always here. So that's sometimes what is scary, because if you're manifesting that fear, there's so much stuff that you probably are missing out on because you haven't given yourself the opportunity to be open to the fear, versus like being afraid of the fear of failing, or of the fear of not being adequate enough in the position you're in. You start to wonder, what else could I have been doing in life had this fear not dictated my moves, my direction, my emotions?
For sure, yeah. Safe to say I'd be in a very different position if I didn't suffer from fear.
I mean, you said you were like very like timid as a kid. I mean,
yeah, I was shy.
You were shy, right?
I was shy.
And just one day you just went up on theater and you're like, I'm just gonna go for it.
It started with singing. I started singing, and then that sort of led to musical theater and like theater. But I loved the freedom of like being on stage in front of people, and like I was almost more comfortable in that position because I felt free. That was where I felt free. And it's still kind of true. Like, for some reason, like, I'll be awkward as shit with like one person, but if you put me on a stage and give me a microphone, I feel free.
Interesting. I feel like that's why I liked you. I was like, wow, you were so awkwardly cool. I was like, left that premiere, and I was just like, wow, I'm not going to be able to talk to someone that interesting again. I'm about to go into the office on Monday and be like, what's going on, Bill? How are the kids at home? They're good? Okay. Yeah. The kid. Oh, he's playing tennis now? Yeah.
Well, but you got to meet T.I., so.
Yeah, that's true. It happens once in a while, blue moon. But, it was nice to hang out with T.I. and his boys. But, Ami, I got to ask you this, okay? So you have now had how many years? 5, 6 years in Hollywood, right?
5 years.
5 years. Are you still afraid?
Of what? I guess to me, I'm always a little bit scared. And it's interesting, when I hear fear and when I hear being told you're great, I hear kind of these like these dual, a double-edged sword. Because on one hand, I do think for any performer, for anybody who's pursuing any type of craft, any skill, there's this element of always wanting to get better. And then there's also an element of putting your work out there, and you do want it probably to affect people. You do want people to enjoy it, and you do want people to receive it. It may be a character they loved. It may be a character they hated. They still were affected by that character, as opposed to, I didn't feel anything towards you. Now, if everyone's telling you you're great all the time, and you just believe them, that's one avenue. And I don't know that. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I can't say. But if it's the opposite, and you're holding yourself back for that same thing of not thinking you're good enough, that's like the opposite end of that spectrum. So I think it's kind of this delicate balance where, as any kind of performer or artist, you have a relationship with your own craft to a certain degree that what other people tell you doesn't make a difference. Because if I enjoyed that performance, if I was connected to the character, at the end of the day, that was what I brought forth to the table. That's why I came to this town. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. If I didn't have those feelings, then it's a little bit different, because I could have done better. Maybe I didn't prepare enough. Maybe I wasn't ready for that particular thing. Maybe it was a little too big for me. I was nervous, whatever it was. The opposite end is, if I'm just hanging on to what people tell me, then it's like, now I've lost my connection. So I think it's kind of important to have a little bit of both.
Yeah, you have to be autonomous in this career. Like, you have to be able to know that you have to believe in yourself to some degree. You have to be delusionally confident.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, you
stay delusional. That's my motto.
I'm gonna coin that.
I already coined it.
Yeah, I mean, I think about this all the time. I mean, this is my craft. Obviously, I love the existential bro, but sometimes it's like, is this even like really worth it all, right? The time I spend in this and I invest is more taxing emotionally than it is financially or what other people think. It's never about like money or people or it's about how much emotion and thought and depth I put into these episodes, because I feel like I have a connection to this and I have a connection to the message I'm trying to spread across for the world. And sometimes it's like, is it even worth this all? Like, is it worth feeling down some days when maybe I don't have I can't even think of the word because it's so hard to talk about, but it's like I don't have the like gusto, like the gusto is what I'm looking for. Then
if somebody messages you and was like, hey bro, I love that episode. I love that episode so much. Like, it meant so much to me. Like, then wouldn't you feel like that it was all worth it?
Well, it's funny because I did the Existential Bro trying to like spread like, my goal is you have these 3 guys that talk about like mental health and men being vulnerable and sensitive with their feminine energy, and thinking we're going to attract men to be like, oh wow, there are men out there and I could be open and I don't need to feel so constricted with my emotions. But we ended up attracting a female audience saying, "Oh my God, men actually talk like this? Like they're sensitive."
Trying to turn their boyfriends on.
Yeah, they're like, wait, hold on, guys. Like, you have no idea. Like, I've never been inside a man's head this way. Like, please answer these 5 questions. So yes, that part of it, there is a lot of, I can say, meaning and substance and purpose there, but it's not even what I'm looking for as far as like the external factors from it. It's more the internal. Like, do I have it in me today? Like, even today, I like woke up and I went to bed kind of early, but you know, I had tried to put myself in that headspace where it's like, what do I want to really ask JJ today? Like, what am I really want to know about you, right? It's not about like what this hour take is. It's about, who are you? What do I care to know? And how can I spread your message to others that might struggle with the same feelings? Yeah. And I think sometimes it's either there or it's not. And sometimes that's something that you have to kind of toggle on and off, you know, and we've talked about that before.
Well, I feel like what's always been interesting about you is like you'll call me in the middle of the day and you'll be just stoked on like the smallest thing that happened. Like Julian will call me and be like, dude, I just had an insane cup of coffee. You will never believe this. And and part of me is like, listen, man, like I'm working right now. But the other part of me is always so amazed at how these things drive you. So I wonder for you, if you didn't have, if you were only one end of this, like, hey, I'm always good and I don't have these kind of in my feelings moments, would it be the same thing? I think the answer is no. I think that you connect more to the highs because you're connected to the lows. Like this pendulum swing, everything informs everything, and you know it's for a reason. So when you know, for me, from an outside perspective, looking at you, it's like, well, if you didn't do this, I think you'd be asking, what should I be doing?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we talked about this, like I was going to say, we talked about this before. It's, you had said, if I wasn't putting everything into acting, right? If I wasn't putting everything into my career, what is there to do? Right? Like I guess live, right? I mean, have you ever had that where sometimes you think about it and you're like, okay, I put so much emotion and thought into my like professional life. What happens if that wasn't there? Like, who am I outside of that?
Well, that's a ride that I'm constantly on, because personally, I feel like you have to have joy outside of this because it will destroy you. Yeah. And it's so I'm constantly asking myself, like, what else is there to life? Like, I need more hobbies. I need to like join a soccer team. Like, do
you play soccer? Do you know how to play soccer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm really good at soccer.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm really good at soccer. Okay.
I thought you were just like trying out new hobbies.
Yeah, I've been in the league for 25 years.
Yeah. I'm like really good at soccer. No, I haven't played in a while, but
Why do you need somebody?
y'all aren't.
You don't know how to play tennis or what?
Is that the only sport that you know how to play?
Well, I beat Ami at swimming, but that's pretty much it so far.
Yeah, that's true, I guess.
Wow, that's surprising.
I had figured that if I was going to be an attorney, I had to do all the sports that you do as an attorney. So I guess tennis and golf
as an attorney
were the first things I picked up. No, I played sports in high school. I was a marching band enthusiast as I played the flute.
Shut up.
Yep, next to the football players.
Shut
and
up.
The worst part about
you
it
had
was
a little uniform?
I had a full uniform playing the flutes freshman year summer. Wow. And I had realized very quickly that this was not the right
flute?
choice.
I'm sorry.
Just a flute. Yeah, the longer flute. That's a recorder. That we play in fourth grade, but then you level up to the flute.
Yeah. Okay, so
you
this
start
is
here and then you go here, and
that's adorable.
Yeah, so I didn't really play too many sports. I was a swimmer. I mean, did you guys play sports?
Yeah. Well, I was cool. Unlike you.
I can tell.
I mean, I was third chair French horn in wind ensemble for 3 years, so you could say I had it going on. What's crazy, though, is the first year I was in wind ensemble, I was actually considered like the young guy in wind ensemble, so being third chair was still cool, because I was like, you're in wind ensemble.
Cool.
Second year,
stop being cool.
Second year, teachers kind of looking at you like, hey, man, like, we didn't get where we wanted to be this year, but, like, you still got one more year, because I was only a junior, and by my senior year, still third chair.
Oh, wow.
The teacher's kind of like, all right, man, just remember to put your instrument up when you need to. Okay. So
I mean, you also did drumline, no?
Yeah.
You were a drumline.
I was also a marching band kid. This is a safe space.
But you actually became a marching band kid.
No. I had an arc because I actually started on the French horn in marching band, and then I was like, I want to play the drums.
And that's when you started.
This is so surprising,
isn't it?
Well, maybe people were like in Texas. It like was like you either played sport. Well, actually, we had a really good theater program, or like all the jocks were also doing theater. But yeah, not in the band, not in the marching band.
No. Huh.
Yeah.
We definitely weren't the jocks. I could tell you that.
Absolutely not.
I tried to become part of the jocks, and I quickly failed at football and quit after a summer of failing. So.
I played basketball for 1 year because the coach came up to me and he's like, "What are you so afraid of?"
Wow.
So speaking of fear, I was like, "All right, well, I have to play, I guess, before I graduate." So I did, and it was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Did you get better? Or did you stay? Did you plateau like your third chair?
No, I was actually for somebody who played 1 year, above average decent.
Okay, good.
Yeah, but we just got
sixth
into
man.
We got into tennis. We now are playing tennis once a month, probably now. We're getting into some different sports. He's a great swimmer. He got that during college years, right? And we have a soccer player here. So I guess
Well, I played all the sports. I mean, not to brag. Not to brag.
You were like, listen, anyway, so I was a really shy kid. I had no idea I was going to be a really good actress.
And now
but
for
also...
JJ's sports resume segment.
Softball, baseball, soccer, volleyball, basketball, cross country, track, swim.
Actually,
Wait, really? What was your stroke?
You did all of those?
What was your stroke?
My stroke? Well, my favorite was breaststroke. But
I love breaststroke.
Me too.
Yeah, breaststroke is the best.
Yeah, it is.
I hated freestyle. That's what it's called, right?
Yeah, freestyle.
Yeah, freestyle. Yeah, hated it. I also like kind of hated swimming because it felt like torture. I was like, why are they just making us just wade in this water for so long and it's freezing? Yeah, I was. Oh my god! And then every time that I would do a match, were they meets or matches for swim?
They're meets.
Okay, yeah, the meets. Every meet, I would poop my pants every meet. I just couldn't handle the pressure. I was terrified.
That'd be so scary.
Terrified of like
so
waiting for them to
Just call you.
Like I can feel the nerves now just remembering how awful that was.
But you competed.
I
really
competed.
fast.
I was a competitive swimmer. Yes, but that was my only sport. I mean, it sounds like you had felt those nerves and said, I'm going to go straight into Hollywood. And, I'm going to try all of these sports first just to make sure there's no sport out there that I can't do really well in.
Yeah.
All right, I think I'm good on the sports. I'm going into Hollywood. I'm channeling these nerves, and I'm going to go fail out there.
Yeah. Pretty much, that was my plan.
So
it's a performance mindset. It's still like
Really
you're still
is,
it's like you're you got to prepare and you got to perform. You got to practice, you got to perform. And it was the same for sports. It's the same kind of mindset and like getting ready. And I still I feel like I need to meditate before I do auditions or performances. Because I also don't want that inner critic coming in and sabotaging like it did the other day on set.
And when it sabotages you, like how do you walk away from it?
Well, I started doing this thing where I make my inner critic a different part. It's not me. She has a name.
What's her name?
Wow.
It has a name. I gave it an alter ego. Her name is Connie because she's a con artist. She's conning me out of everything good that happens in my life. So I started. So when I hear that inner critic come in, I'm like, oh, okay. Thanks for popping by, Connie. But I'm good. I'm safe. I don't need you right now. I'm trying to have a good time. Just chill. Just shut the fuck up.
Are there times where you are ready to interact with Connie a little bit?
Yeah, that's the most interaction I think I do with her. I don't know if I should do more. Do you think I should?
I'm probably
burn her
not the
alive?
person to ask.
I was gonna say he gets his inner critic and he books a flight home. That guy is on the first flight home. The second that inner critic's in his head, we'll be hanging out, and all of a sudden I'll just see him like looking at Expedia. I'm like, "What's going on, man?" He's like, "No worries. I gotta go home early."
Oh my god, did you guys watch Dexter?
I didn't know, but I know the premise of the show. Give me the premise. Give me
Well,
the plot
it's just that he's a serial killer, but he's trained. My point was he calls his demons his dark passenger, and that's kind of what it is. It's like this thing that like you. Consciously you are aware that it's not who you are, it's separate than you, but if you don't separate yourself, it will you'll spiral and you'll sabotage. So yeah,
that is. I wish I knew you before all of the relationships, because I'm pretty sure.
So none of that stuff is real, because none of that stuff is real. Every time that voice pops up, sorry, I'm yelling in the mic now. None of that stuff is real.
Connie's out.
Because
Let me ruin this podcast really quick. It's been going so well. Fuck this podcast.
But I wish I knew this so long ago too, because it's like you can be aware that like you're afraid of success, you're afraid of, like you can be aware of your fears, but like until you have the tools to deal with it when it's popping up, you'll still spiral. You'll still like, you can know that it's like it happens, but you don't know how to deal with it until you have like tools to like to bring you back into the moment, and be present again.
Wow.
I said present, not president. Okay.
It was on the verge. We were
I was
gonna
kind
let
of
it
doing this
slide.
Nixon
And be
thing.
president again.
And be president again.
We were gonna fix it in post.
But don't worry, we can edit that out. Don't worry. No, but it's so true. I mean, there's that voice all the time in my mind where it's just like things could be kind of slowly moving up, and then all of a sudden it's like sabotage it all, and then boom.
Yeah, let's ruin
blow
it.
up. Let's just ruin your life.
Yeah,
really
let's
quick.
blow it up.
Yeah, let's just see what happens.
We don't deserve it anyways.
Yeah, it's like, who cares?
It was
You
never
don't-
ours.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
yeah, like one of the questions I ask myself when I start having this voice, and I'm like, because we have cognitive bias and we're looking to support our theory that we suck and we're failures and we're gonna let everyone down. It's
Wow.
Me.
it's like
He's
it's
already
like,
booking his flight.
I'm like, yes.
dude, book it on Southwest because they're really cheap right now.
I'm A-list.
So to be able to like to say to yourself like, oh, is there actually any evidence to support the fact that I think that this person hates me because of something I did like 10 years ago? Is there any evidence to support that? Okay, probably not. So I might as well just like move on from that whole theory. Like to constantly ask myself if there's any evidence to support any of these negative thoughts that are coming in and trying to ruin my life.
Wow. That was really...
But I love ruining my life.
That's good.
And we sip the Celsius.
I'm having a Celsius.
Like, I love ruining my life. 700 milligrams of caffeine within 1 hour. I'm like, all right.
You don't need to drive me back. I'm just gonna fly.
Why am I getting louder?
Well, it's so funny because when we ruin our lives and we see it crumble, we could just easily pick it back up. It's like almost like when things are going too well, at least for me,
Yeah.
when things are going too well, I'm like, it can't get better from here. If
I
I
know.
want to meet the next threshold, I'm gonna have to work twice as hard. Let me just
Yeah.
blow it up, so then I can just pick up the pieces and just
Yeah.
say, all right, well, at least I
That's more
fixed it."
comfortable. That's
It's way
safer.
Easier. It's easier.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
I know how to
safer.
pick up the pieces. I don't know how to get to the next level though.
Yeah, because it's safer to just like keep playing in your and like to take
Your
your
safe zone.
time.
Yeah, safe zone.
Take your time. No hurry. Like just like destroy it a little bit and then like see where you stand.
Yeah, exactly. It's
At
like
the end of the year, yeah, ruin your life a little bit.
Lose 2 cars, no big deal.
They weren't lost; they were stolen. But yes, I love ruining my life.
As an artist, I had someone actually ask me this question the other day over coffee, and she had said, you like to write, you have your poetic muse, and you enjoy your podcasting, and you want to get this greater message out into the world. If you can do that for the rest of your life, and there was no way of dying necessarily. Like, I mean, you can die from a natural disaster or something like really, but you don't age. You could continue.
I love that.
You could continue living forever, spreading the wealth of knowledge, spreading your love for your art, spreading the like message for greater good. But you can't procreate. You can't teach your own something. Would you choose that over procreation and building a family and building this like life outside of your art? And that really stumped me because I thought this entire time, everything I have done up to this point is to have that family and to have that life and to build that, success amongst my children. Mm-hmm. But sometimes I wonder, is it worth it just keep pushing and being selfish in this time and worry about what really matters, which is me as of right now.
Which is me.
Which is me, by the way. So have you ever thought, like, if like time is too limited. Like, am I going to be able to do all the things I really want? Because my biggest fear out of this entire episode, my biggest fear is getting to the end of my life and feeling like I could have done more. Like I didn't live up to the potential in that height that I had seen myself live up to.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think about that all the time. Like, I'm definitely not living the reality that I want to be living right now.
What do you mean? You had a phenomenal suit on last night or the other night.
I know.
Like,
well, yeah, there are times where I'm like, oh yeah, of course. Like, I have to.
Yeah.
I am grateful for it all. Like, it's not like my life. I have a great life actually. But is it like, could I be doing more?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Are there
sure.
days where I kind of just let a day go by and I'm like, well, tomorrow, we'll try again tomorrow. Yeah, there's been a lot of those days. So, yeah. But also like, yeah, just kind of enjoying life is important too. So
Yeah.
like, at what cost are you, are to keep striving for more, and like, like at what point are you just kind of doing it just to do it,
Yeah.
and are you actually enjoying it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the purpose is to just enjoy it.
I mean, we talked about this exact thing over the phone. We had this exact same conversation where I said, like, look, you're doing so many different things and you're putting yourself out there and you're vulnerable and you're auditioning, but you're also focusing on your career and you're working on your profession in the sense that you're going back to school and you're doing all these different things, but you're doing it at a cost, right? Like, you're losing a little bit in each part. Like, can you be this like master in one thing and not the jack of all trades, or can you be the jack of all? Like, where do you make that decision? At what cost are you willing to make that decision? I don't know.
I don't think
I've been trying to
there's
figure
an
that
answer.
out. I've been trying to figure that situation.
I think you have to pursue your interests, because
Okay.
you might find out that you're on the wrong path and you need to switch gears. Like, I think it's important to pursue your interests and see where they take you. And I mean, I don't know, but I'm just the girl who played every sport growing up.
I was gonna say, like, how
So
did
it's easy for me. I mean, track translates to cross country.
like,
so.
you said you started with modeling, right? Like, you had started like thinking about like fashion modeling, or was it like did you start with acting? I know you went out in theater and stuff, but how did you know that this is 100% your muse? Like, this is what you want,
I
or is it what you want?
I tried to model when I was little. And I got an agent when I was in Dallas, and I like had a little comp card. It's so funny. It's so funny. And I remember the day I came home with it, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm a model. I'm a model. And then I met with this modeling agency in Dallas, this big modeling agency. I'll leave their name out of it. Actually, I'm
Don't worry,
well.
Ford already ruined Ami's modeling chances.
And I met with this agent, and this was when I was in high school at this point, and he was like, so you have more of a Britney Spears kind of a look, and we're just looking for like more natural, like a more natural beauty, and what you have is good. It's more Britney Spears. And I was like, so like hot as shit? Like, what do you mean? And then I realized that it was because I was wearing like, a ton of makeup, and I had so many highlights. My hair was like stick straight, and I was wearing some low-rise diesel jeans and a crop top, and I was like, I mean, it felt hot, but like, I guess it wasn't what they were looking for. But anyway, no,
You're just going on American Idol. You're like, I'm ready.
My high school boyfriend was like, I can't believe they rejected you. You're the hottest person in the world. And I was like, I know, babe. What the heck? Me modeling is just not for me. So I wasn't really a model. I like tried to model a little bit, and when I moved out here, I started with singing. So like that was where I started to like, that was like my
That was your
playground
interest?
of,
Like, you knew that's what
yeah,
you wanted?
I started singing. I loved singing. I wanted to be a singer, and then at a certain point in high school, I was like, am I really good enough to be a professional singer? Probably not. But I might have something in acting, which was so crazy because I like had never really done anything. I was like, but I think I'm good enough to be an actor. That seems easier.
Like, how do you even know
I'm gonna take the easy road.
go to Hollywood
Yeah.
and be rejected for the
Yeah.
rest of my life. I mean, it's hard. It's hard out there. I just can't.
Yeah.
I don't. When do you get to the point where you ask yourself, is this enough? Is this like gonna get me where I need to go?
Well, I think that, it's different for everyone, but I have come to the conclusion that I'm probably never going to be satisfied. I'm going to probably just remain dissatisfied for the rest of my life.
That's how I've been feeling.
And-
I feel so good that you said
But
that.
I'm okay with it. Like, that's part of it.
Wait, but is that natural? Because I don't think a lot.
so.
I don't know. I don't think a lot of people have this feeling of complete dissatisfaction for the
There
rest of their
is
lives.
no so I'll get a project, I'll book something
Sure.
great and and that is like that is what I live for, and it's
Yeah.
so much fun, and I get to do the thing that I love to do, and it's just the best. But then it's over, and then I'm depressed. It gets the Lord giveth and taketh away, and then after it's over, I'm like, But that's always going to happen. So you just have to come to terms with that. And so it's like it kind of like leads to this like inevitable dissatisfaction throughout
God.
life. But it ebbs and flows. It's not ever like one way. I wouldn't trust a person who was like, yeah, I'm 100% satisfied all the time.
I mean, gosh, that was so beautifully said, because I thought through this entire. I was bred to be an attorney from 5 years old. My dad was having me watch SVU, and he's like, "You're gonna be an attorney, and you're gonna go argue in the courtroom." Like, Dad, I want to be an actor. He's like, No, you're gonna be an attorney. I was like, all right. He's like, you could act in the trial, like you could act in the courtroom, like you're not gonna be an actor. I was like, all right. And the reason why that conversation even happened is because someone had said to my dad, like, oh, he'd be a really great actor. Why don't you put him into some acting classes? He's like, no, we're gonna put him into some English classes because the English is poor. So I had learned Farsi first. So so it was just. So I look at this now, and I thought when I got to law school, that's like the big ticket in. Like, I finally made it enough to be happy. And I got to law school, and I was like, oh, I'm not happy yet. Oh, it's because I have to finish law school. So I'm driving towards a destination. I got to finish law school. I'm at my graduation. All of my family is there. Ami's there. I'm looking around, and I'm so happy to have my friends and family there. But am I really happy with where I am in life? I wasn't. I was like, okay, I'm not there yet. I'm not happy because there's this huge, big test that I have to take. The bar is what I need to pass to become an attorney. So that's why I'm not happy. Let me pass the bar. Then after the bar, that's the moment when I receive the congratulations, right? The feeling of contentness. And I go through the bar, I get out of the exam, I'm miserable. And those 3 months, I'm sitting in my misery and my depression, and I'm like, what just happened? And then finally they give you the score, and I got the passing score, and I just couldn't figure out what was happening in my mind. I was like, am I happy? Am I not happy? Am I confused? And then I step into the office at a big firm that I've been wanting to work at for 2 years, that I'm interviewing for through law school, that I'm finally working at, and I'm still not happy. And I'm finally,
that's
and
juicy.
it's like, and I'm having the chills, and I'm thinking, God, that one person that always would say, gosh, it's the journey that matters, not the destination. Well, the destination has to matter too.
Destination's pretty important. Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't care about the journey anymore. Just get me to the destination.
Well, I have some thoughts about that.
You're like, you should see my therapist.
It seems like
I'm gonna give you
your
her card.
creativity was stifled with your, profession. And maybe there's more to you than just, the profession that you're in right now.
I agree.
So, and I think that's part of like the creatives too. I feel like are just constantly dissatisfied. Like, you just can't make us happy. Like, it's just inevitably.
But it's beautiful though, because when you do have that stint of happiness, it's real happiness. Like, I feel it when I have that stint, just a little bit. I live in that moment. I really live in that coffee that I call Amitai about.
It is crazy because I talk to creatives who are like way farther along. They meet people who I'm like, I would want your career definitively right now, no questions asked, and they're just exactly in that state. I'm like, uh-oh. You're like, I'm screwed.
It's never gonna change. I have a friend who's on a huge show, and she's like, I think I suck. I think I hate myself, and I think I suck. Like, it's
good to know that people even at the top and people that have come so long in their career like yourself still are unhappy. At least I just see this abyss of just loneliness and sadness. Okay. But in a good way. Because when I'm unhappy, I think, the feelings of the down almost give the high, like you said, a lot more meaning, right?
Yeah,
like,
totally.
If I didn't have those downs, what would that high really
And what are
feel
you
like?
working towards?
Yeah,
Like, what are you
is it?
working? What are you
Yeah.
even doing any of it for? If it doesn't bring you joy, like,
Yeah.
it's very painful
Lonely at the
sometimes.
top. Well, it's been one hell of a conversation. We're wrapping it up. We're here at the hour mark. I can't tell you how happy I've been in this hour, right? After we leave, the high's gone. But
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go drink more coffee like you.
I'm going to bed after this.
but it's been really nice to be able to talk to Ami again after not seeing him on the episode for about a year, and to see how much you've grown has just been. I'm just such a proud friend, and to have you sitting next to the JJ Nolan on a podcast, it's like, come
Wow.
on, yeah, like how else can you see your life in the next year? It's like you're already at the highest point, and and
The
it just
honor
goes
is
down
mine,
there.
my friend.
Yeah,
I appreciate you
Yeah,
having
happy.
me.
No, thank you. Thank
It's been
JJ.
awesome.
Seriously, you have
Thank you.
you have really made this episode a fun one. So thank
For
you so
sure.
much. This is the Existential Bro with Juju, Ami, and JJ Nolan. We'll see you next time, episode 20. Thank you. Fierce.